All right, good afternoon there again. Appreciate everyone coming. And as always, we want to continue to give God the glory as each and every day gives us an opportunity to teach and develop these young men here how to be like God-like and Christian-like people. I want to first also comment again on our fans. They did a great job at our game. It was fantastic there. The student section was phenomenal. And we want to, on behalf of all our players and our staff, we want to say thank you, all fans, for the great support. I know we'll continue that for the rest of the season. The positive where we improved in every area. I thought that was very, very important that we continue to improve in every single football game. And this was a game where we actually, I think, improved in every phase. Defense continued to play well. Offense there got on track, especially Stephon Masha, the offensive line. I thought they played definitely above average game and played well together as an offensive unit. Special teams was excellent, particularly in the return game. Really wanted to see that get going, and it was good to see that get going as far as with Damon King and a little bit of what Zach Parker doing all those things. So give credit to all the other guys with their blocking and all those things that were going on. The other positive was we had a chance to play a lot of players, and I think that's going to be very important. We got a chance to play a lot of players, and so therefore we get later in the season through the game experience that they received here at the last week that's going to come into play, and they're going to get called upon. They'll be ready to play a lot better because it's a long season ahead of us. Still got a lot of games to play, and so I thought that was very important. Now I'll speak about SMU. I thought SMU, looking at them on tape, the first thing comes in my mind is they got a lot of speed. I think on both sides of the ball. They can run. They can run. Their return people really can flat out run. Their receivers are fast. They got 3 or 4 of those guys. And talking about their head coach, Chad Morris, definitely somebody that's well respected throughout the coaching profession. Did a lot of great things there in the high school area there. I think he won 2 state titles there when he was coaching there in Lake Travis. And then he's been on at other schools across the country, and then now having a chance to come back to the state of Texas and coach at SMU, which I know is his second year now going on, and I expect him to continue to move forward and get that program at a high level. I guess a little bit about their offense. I guess I heard a little bit last night that Davis won't be playing, so Ben Hicks, the player, their quarterback there, is a redshirt freshman from Waco Midway High School. Very talented young man that can throw the ball really, really well. I think he has a very, very good arm. He had a chance to play last week against Baylor, so he does have a game under his belt. And the other thing, like I talked about, his receivers. I think last name was Sutton. He is a really, really good receiver. I think he's only a sophomore, I do believe, and he can run, and he has size. He's tough. He's physical. And he demands the football, and the ball in the air. You can see the body language that he presents on tape. That belongs to me. It's kind of, he doesn't say it obviously, but his body language is stating that to him. Then the other guy there is number 3 there, James Prochet. I think that's the way he pronounced it, but he can flat out run very quick. More of a slot guy, receiver. They'll play Sutton all over the place, so they move those 2 guys all over. And they have other guys there too, receivers that are very, very good. Defensively, Van Malone there as a defensive coordinator has done a really good job all across the country where he's been around different schools and seen him around in recruiting, and a person that I know. So they run a four down front. They do a lot of multiple things with it. They will move their defense around. They'll do a lot of stunts. They'll blitz their linebackers. They'll do quite a bit of that all different places, so we definitely got to be on par. I think they got about 7 starters returning on defense. A guy that stands out a little bit there, I think number 99 there, Justin Lawler. Guy has 3.5 sacks. He has 4 tackles for losses. He's a ball hawk. He goes all over the place, and so we got to keep our eye on him and make sure we keep him in check. A strong safety, Darren Middleness, number 29. He's a leading tackler there. He is all over the place. He has 2 interceptions. He has 3 PBUs, pass breakups. The guy is all over the field, and he flats out run, and he will strike you. Special teams, they got solid returners. And, again, I keep me saying the word there, speed, and they definitely show that. Injuries for us in this ball game, Marcus Fitzgerald is out, upper body. Malik Matthews is out, upper body. Will Johnson is out, lower body. And Jeremy Peters is questionable for this game here. But, Keys to the game. I think one of the key things here is the explosive plays. They have a lot of explosive plays. And normally on defense, we kind of talk about really less than having one every 20 plays of explosive plays. And really kind of breaking it down, we have anything that's over a 15-yard run is an explosive play. Anything over a 20-yard pass is an explosive play. So therefore, we have 80 snaps. We're hoping to have 4 or less of those explosive plays as far as how we look at it from a defensive perspective. From an offensive perspective, we try to say we want to have 8 explosive plays. And so we really look at it a little bit different as we're trying to get 10 yards on run plays. Anything over 10 yards, that's an explosive play. If you got anything over 15 yards and a pass, that's an explosive play. So it's a little bit different from an offensive perspective on the numbers of yards that they have to get to call it an explosive play. So this game is going to be about explosive plays on both sides of the ball. Who's going to have more? And obviously out of the 20 plays that they run, are we going to be more consistent to be able to do that? They have a lot of explosive plays, and that's why that's going to be very important. We hope to have explosive plays ourselves, and I hope that we can win that battle. And then winning on special teams. That's going to be another great phase that's going to be very important for us to continue to maintain, continue to move forward on that, continue to not have any penalties, continue to move forward and improve in that area. And let's do it back-to-back games where our special teams are very, very good. Then another little stat here, I looked on there where nobody scored on them yet in the first quarter. As far as their defensive side of the ball, they have not given up any points in the first quarter. I think it's 28 points for their offense, no points from their defense's point of view. So we got to score points. I'm not saying we got to score what that number is, but we got to have points on the boards in the first quarter to have some positive things occur so that we can get on track and be positive in this game. Open up to questions.
Coach, I know it's a business trip, but your thoughts on kind of going back home a little bit?
Going to Texas? Well, I got a few phone calls, a few ticket requests and all that kind of stuff. So kind of part of it is myself handling it and part of my wife is handling it. And obviously trying to move forward. So it's going to be exciting for me to be in the state of Texas. I have a daughter that actually 10 minutes from the SMU campus, so we're not very far from that area and all that. So very, very familiar. I coached there for a year. So there are some ties there in a lot of different ways. And so I do respect their program, respect their university.
Coach, in Danny Rocco's final year here, no players from Texas on the roster. You've had 8, 9, 10, 11 guys on the roster each year from Texas. How important has been recruiting for you in that state to help this roster out?
Well, I think with our connection there, I got guys on the staff that are connected with Texas, and so I believe in the players there, believe in the players here in the state of Virginia. I almost kind of look at them as somewhat equal to the same point of force talent-wise in the state of Virginia and the state of Texas, and we attack it that way. So it's been good. We got relationships, and I think as we all know in life, when you have relationships, that means a whole lot in where you go. So I've been in that high schools, the state of Texas, for over 20 years, and so I've continued to develop relationships around it, and it's good to have it. So it's good for our players to have an opportunity to go back and play in the state of Texas. So a lot of their family members will get a chance to see them play in person. Not to say they don't come up here in Lynchburg and see them too, but now it gives them a great opportunity to get even more of their family members to see them play. So it's important for us, no doubt about it, as far as the recruiting aspect of it.
Yeah, just got to follow up on that. I mean, not just the players that are currently on your roster, but guys that you may be looking at down there to be able to come and see you guys in person, match up against a team from the state of Texas. How important is that? Exposure,
identity. I think, some people have never heard of Liberty. Then there's people may have heard a little bit about Liberty. And so now they get a chance to even research it a little bit more. They get to hear a little bit more about it because we're now going to be talked about whether they're at the game, whether they're listening to it on the radio, whether they see it on TV or whatever it is. They now can really investigate it a lot more deeper, particularly the people that we already have contacted, that we're recruiting at this point in time. That just makes them a little bit more excited to look into more details, the moms and dads and so on and so forth and all that. So it's a big plus, no doubt about it, for the exposure.
Coach, just in terms of confidence as a whole, the scheduling of coming off of Virginia Tech, playing well in that game through the second quarter, and then getting a big win, just how confident are you going into taking on another FBS opponent?
Well, I would say we're cautiously confident. I think that's the right phrase that we always use around here is that you want to have confidence, no question about that. We're not scared to say we're confident in what we're going to do, but you got to be cautiously about it, that you want to get that fine line that you're not overly confident where it doesn't give you an opportunity to still be productive in your play. And so I think our players are excited about the opportunity. We know we got a tall task in hand. Again, they have very much a good talent. We feel like we have good talent, and it's going to be a good matchup. But again, we got to play errorless football, and that meaning less penalties, meaning taking care of the football, and executing to the highest level on every single snap.
You told me after the game on Saturday you had to evaluate Aaron Campbell, Chris Turner a little bit more. Obviously, they're on the depth chart and weren't mentioned in the injury report. So I guess at what point did you realize that these guys were good to go?
Yesterday, I guess unless something comes up at this point in time, they'll be ready to play, and that's a good thing in what I see in for that aspect of it. So nothing was really serious to the extent that they have to be out of any extensive period of time, and so I anticipate them to be ready to play, and that's going to be very, very helpful to have both of those guys ready to play at that time. So I'm excited about it. They'll hold out today, but they'll be ready to go as far as the game time.
Getting Michael Hinderman back in the fold and kind of getting his feet wet again, how does that help solidify your offensive line?
Well, that helps. That helps the offensive line. We moved a lot of people around. We had to play Ethan Crawford probably sooner than we really wanted to in the first ball game there against Virginia Tech. We were anticipating to play him this year. Well, it was going to be kind of eased in, but we kind of pushed him out there real fast against Virginia Tech, and he's responded very, very well. He gives us more depth, gives us a little bit more flexibility to play some people at different spots. Lucas Holder can play probably every position at the offensive line position, and having Mike Hinderman there makes it a lot more solid as an offensive group, and being able to alternate some people in there if we need to.
Taking on another FBS opponent, what would you like to see from your team that would make it a successful trip for you guys?
Play penalty-free, turnover-free. And special teams will play at the highest level through all 4 quarters, to play a complete game in all 4 quarters, and then whatever happens, happens.
Coach, you finally got the run game going very strong last week, 319 yards, now moving on to a second FBS opponent. You mentioned the problems that opposing offenses have had against their defense, especially early on. What's the key to having those explosive plays on offense against SMU?
Well, I know that they blitz early, and they call some negative plays there early on, and then people make an adjustment, which is we always have to do in a game. And hopefully right now we don't have to make as many adjustments after the first 2 series. Hopefully we can study them very, very well, and so we can get off to a better start. Again, the first 2 ball games, sometimes people make adjustments on their defense from last year, and you don't know what they're going to do. And so I think the teams have had an opportunity now and us to investigate them a little bit more, and I'm hoping we can have a great game plan in the first 2 series where our guys can execute to the highest level, and where therefore we can get some points on the board.
Coach, the university yesterday released the violation of team rules for Cam Jackson and Kyle Carrington. How important was it for you to be, up front with that, not sweep it under the rug initially, and also not take too evasive of a position and dismiss them off the team and allow the legal system to play out?
Yeah, well, all I want to do is just have people to read the statement, and just because it's still on the appeal process and all that, I cannot go into detail any further than that. I'd like to give all questions or inquiries to go to Les Stevens there if you can, and as far as our external communications director.
How much of an impact having a solid tight end like Kendall back, how can that help open up the passing game?
Well, it helps us out. He does both well, blocking, pass receiving, but also in leadership as far as the third thing. And it's very, very important to have him in our game. And I think he's just now he's always been 100%, but now he's back in the game flow of things and all that. I anticipate him to have a big year. Again, he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities per se, but he's going to be a very, very important guy as we continue to move on here in every phase, offensively as far as the blocking and the leadership part of it. And he's a great football player, and I'm glad he's back.
You have Will Brown back on the depth chart. How close is he to being full go and getting a chance to get back into the rotation?
Well, we hope to get him, what that magic number is, hopefully maybe around 20 plays or something like that. He won't play that 50, 60 or whatever reps as far as that goes, but it's good to get him back in here and get him back started, get him in that game shape. It'll be 2 to 3 weeks before he really can get into that, hopefully 50, 60 or 70 snaps as far as that goes. So it's glad to have him back, and it's going to be helpful for our defensive line. Defense has played pretty well without him, but it makes us even more stronger with him in there.
You mentioned last week that the offensive line was really where the key matchup started. If you had to assess this game, given their speed and so forth, where would you really say that the key matchup is this week?
Well, I'm always going to say the offensive defensive line, and probably if we go after that, then it's probably going to be really more our receivers versus their DBs against our receivers. So I think those are the other matchups that's going to be very, very important.
You know, Jacksonville game, I was definitely pleased how we was able to respond to some of the unorthodox offense that we saw. It really came out of left field for our guys as well as our coaches. You know, I'm going to be honest, I was kind of on the eggshells a little bit as far as forcing myself to stay very vanilla with our calls. And so our kids really responded. A lot of time on the board, on the sideline, trying to make some adjustments. The coaches in the box did a great job of getting the information to me to where we can make adjustments for each situation we were in. Very pleased with how I was able to create turnovers. I thought that helped our defense. Did a good job on third down, getting off the field. So I was real pleased with that. Part of the area still got to improve on, and we're going to address is just open field tackling. I was disappointed in that. And I know a lot of it had to do with guys thinking. Anytime you're starting to face things you haven't seen or you don't expect, sometimes you forget where your leverage is at and where your help is at. And so we got to continue to improve on that. But overall, I thought we made good strides. When it comes to SMU, you know, I think all of us know that they're a very explosive offense. They have very talented receivers. It starts with I want to make sure I say it right, Mr. Cortland Sutton, freshman All-American. He's a dynamic player. Right now, he leads the country in receptions, yards, and touchdowns, and he's had all of SMU's passing touchdowns. So he's a talented guy. And then they also have some other young men. The quarterback, Davis, is injured. We found that out. He's done for the year. But they went with freshman Ben Hicks. He had a very nice outing against Baylor. And then we all know that Coach Morris is a very innovative coach. And so I'm real excited about the opportunity for our defense to be able to match up against SMU.
How much does it help to have some game film on Hicks, the latter part of the North Texas and the whole Baylor one, so you do have some familiarity with what you need to scheme for?
Well, it definitely helped, probably more just to assess his abilities. You know, I believe Coach Morris, they're going to run what they run. And seeing him against Baylor, he definitely proved to us as a coaching staff that he can do a great job in their offense and in their scheme. So we know that as Coach Morris and that staff gets with him and continue to build him up, they'll probably be able to run really what he wants to run. And so we're anticipating for them to, you know, do a little bit of everything. That's what he's known for, and he does it at a great level.
You got Chris Turner on the depth chart this week. That's good to see after Saturday. How important is the DB receiver matchup in this one?
It's going to be very important. You know, Chris Turner has shown the ability to be able to give us matchup opportunities where we can ensure that we put him on maybe the top guy on the opponent's team. But also, you know, Tyron Holloway has really impressed me with how he's played the first two games. And so, to me, those two young men can definitely give us an opportunity to continue to be a little bit more versatile with our defensive scheme.
Coach, just as a whole, how much do you think it helps this team playing two FBS opponents in the early part of the year, reaching out to how it's going to help you guys throughout the year?
Well, you know, I would say it definitely helped us. I believe our defense performing against Virginia Tech and knowing that mentally they could do it and seeing how they trusted each other on the sideline against a team of that magnitude, I think that helped us. It ain't no doubt it helped us. And then it really helped us this past Saturday when we played Jacksonville, just because we didn't know that they were going to do some of the things that they did. And so seeing that camaraderie, and then, like you said, another opportunity to play another FBS team, I think our confidence, just what we've been through the last 2 weeks, has really built the camaraderie amongst our unit to really believe in each other. And so you're right, playing these type teams, hopefully it'll help us later on in the season as we get into conference play, of just having that camaraderie, knowing that we've played quality talent.
Despite the fluctuation of names on the depth chart at safety, the safeties played really well this past week. Just how do you feel about the depth at that position and how they've showed out?
Well, like I said, I believe in the preseason, I had to realize I didn't do a great job last year of teaching. And so that I took that upon myself to make sure that all the young men in the room knew everyone's responsibility, not just their own. Because once injuries occur, different things occur, now it's about playing the next best guy. And if you don't do, and I didn't, do quality job of teaching the whole concept and not just try to make sure a young man learn his position, when situations occur, then now you're playing a little left-handed. You don't have the quality, maybe them mentally understanding really what to do, and then you're screaming and yelling at them. And so I think this year, just taking on that and the young men buying into that has allowed us to be successful. Brandon Tillman did a great job because he didn't get any reps at the free safety position, but he understood the concept and the totality of the defense. And so that allowed him to be very successful when he got in. And so he's a very smart young man, and like you said, for the last 2 weeks we've had to make some juggles with that position. But the young men have all bought in. They have the mindset that I have, next man up, and there's no excuses. We just got to get the job done.
How excited is Corbin to be back in the room after his one-game suspension?
I believe I'll find out at the team meeting, how excited he is. Touching bases with him. Sunday he was with us, but, that was a light practice. My focus was really on getting ready for SMU. And so once we get to the meeting and focus on SMU, I imagine he's going to be excited to get back and get amongst the guys and just have a good time. Yes, sir.
You held an option attack to less than 300 yards. Should we stop asking you about option offenses now?
No. I would tell you, for me, that's what you prepare for it. And, we haven't been good. And, took it upon myself, our defensive staff took it upon ourselves to realize we had to get better. And like I said, a lot of it had to do with the football IQ of our young men getting better. Also had to do with the athleticism at the linebacker position, which Coach Bookbinder has done a great job, with us trying to get some young men that can run. And so I think those dynamics have allowed us to get better against the option. And these young men really buying in. And like I said, just playing the first 2 games and the Virginia Tech game really brought us together a lot closer. Normally when you face those type of teams, it's that attitude, they were FBS. Hey, that's going to happen. But I think the way our guys responded, it allowed for me and for our staff to really focus in a little bit more. Hey, trust each other when it comes to the option. Believe in it. Believe in what we're teaching. And I think that's what we saw.
Coach Gill said Will Brown will probably play about 20, 25 snaps, not the full snaps he'd normally play. Are you going to try to limit him in certain situations so that way he can get back into game shape, or do you have set plays where you want him to get in and kind of get back into the flow of things?
Well, that'll probably be me and Coach Singletary sitting down. We normally sit down by Thursday. Once we evaluate our practice, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we normally sit down and talk about how many plays. By that time, we'll probably know what calls was, compliment him the best. Especially with his injury that he had. We want to make sure we put him in the right situations. So, yeah, there'll be a lot of talk going on between me, Coach Singletary, and then we'll touch base with Coach Gill in regards to how we will use him.
Analyzing the Baylor tape, SMU last week, they held them without a touchdown in the first half. What happened in that second half that allowed Baylor to kind of open things up?
Well, a lot of it had to do with just our assessment. Unfortunately, the quarterback kind of, hurt them a little bit as they start to put together drives. But, he's just a young guy, and I know that Coach Moore is going to get him, get him corrected and get them better. A lot of it probably had to do with SMU's defense. Just watching the whole game, their defense did a very nice job in the first half confusing Baylor. And, of course, that's what you got halftime for. You get an opportunity to get on the board, try to explain things. And, of course, we know Baylor's a very talented team. But I think SMU is very much improved from last year. That coaching staff has done a tremendous job from the film that we saw in 2015 to what we see now. They are a lot more efficient. They are play with a lot more passion, energy. You just see it. The first 2 games, I've been really impressed with the improvement that coaching staff has done with that team. Yes, sir.
When you go back and watch the film of that second half and the 2 interceptions, one in the end zone, one that was returned for a pick 6, what did you see that Baylor did? Was it pressure up front or disguising secondary coverage to try to get him thinking the wrong thing?
Well, just watching the game film, I don't really believe Baylor as much changed things. It didn't look like they changed part of what they were doing in the first half. A lot of it had to do with probably them talking to their guys about what to see, what is expected. The thing about defense is you can prepare and practice for a certain thing, but that doesn't guarantee the offense is going to do that. And a lot of times, a lot of young men, just because they haven't seen it in practice, it takes them a little while to get adjusted. And sometimes as a coach, it's hard for you to get to them on the sideline because they may be getting right back on the field. Sometimes you need a good half time, good 10, 15 minutes where you can talk to young men and explain to them what they're really doing. And I really believe that's what happened because in the second half you didn't really see them change their coverage, so to say, or their fronts and what they were doing. I think they just had opportunity to really make their young men aware of what was going on.
I got a couple. I'll just ask one at a time.
Yes,
though.
sir.
With Hicks, from what you've seen so far, are they any more limited in what they can do offensively?
No, sir. They're really not. I think probably the only things you're talking about scheme-wise, they're not limited. Now, maybe, of course, we know that Davis was definitely unique with the ball in his hand, and on third down, like against North Texas, he converted several third down opportunities, and his scrambling abilities is very unique and special. But schematic-wise, Coach Morris has all the tools that in the playbook open because the young man can run the read zone. He can run all the passing concepts that Davis did. It's probably just going to be the scrambling ability is going to be the difference.
Is it going to be fun to watch Sutton versus Turner?
Sunday, hey, ask me Sunday. I really believe Chris Turner is really excited about it. He really takes it upon himself when we talk about matchups to really study the film and try to find the little nuances that will help him with his eyes. So I know he's excited, and I always will also say Tyron Holloway is excited because, when you go against a hurry-up team, it's not guaranteed that you're going to always get Chris Turner on that side. So I know Tyron Holloway is doing a lot of studying too, so it's going to be fun. I'm excited. At the end of the day, I'm really excited for these young men because, like I said, the first 2 games, they showed me that they really embraced these opportunities, and it's been a while since we've had that here.
What characteristics in your defense, Robert, have you seen that's allowed you guys to get 8 takeaways in the first 2 games?
Football intelligence. Our young men are really now trusting the calls that I make, trusting to know where their leverage is at, understanding first man in, let's strip the ball, second man in, let's make sure we can bend and go get the ball. It's funny, we as a defensive staff, we talked about how last year we only recovered, I think, 4 fumble recoveries, maybe 4 to 6, but we had like double digits on the ground. And we had balls kick us in the leg, go out of bounds. We land on it, and it pops out on us, and offense recovered. I just think better awareness of when the ball's on the ground. Also, like I said, just our young men really playing relentless and wanting to get the ball out. And I think you can do that when you trust your defense and you trust the other guys. Now you're not overthinking. And so that's what I'm seeing.
I thought our guys did a really good job of bouncing back from week 1 to week 2 in the sense that those guys really understood that we had to come out and play very, very physical, and we had to do so very fast in order to jump out ahead of a team that didn't have as much experience as the previous team. And so I think our guys did a great job of executing just the basic play calls that we had called early on. And once they got into that rhythm, that tempo, from there, was smooth sailing.
What are your thoughts on SMU, real quick?
Well, they're a veteran group on the defensive side of the ball. They're a much better team than they were last year, both physically and mentally. You can see guys understand conceptually what they're trying to do, and then technique-wise, those guys have really made some drastic improvements to their game. The defensive coordinator's done a really good job of getting his guys in the best position possible to make plays. If you watch, the past game that they played in, they stuck with them all the way through the third quarter. There's a couple breakdowns here and there, but for the most part, they were schematically sound.
What have they really done to turn the opposition over? They forced a lot of turnovers here already.
Yeah, I think they've been more aggressive than they were in the previous year. They use different techniques in the back end than typical quarters defenses, so they have more eyes on the football with the techniques that they play at the cornerback and the safety position. So that allows for them to play better pursuit football and be in position to make plays when the ball comes their way.
It seems first 2 weeks seems like you've made a concerted effort to establish the run, and both weeks the holes have been opened up. Tech had the speed to fill those gaps quickly against Jacksonville. The guys hit the hole. How much are you making an effort to make sure the run's established every game, get those guys settled in so Stephon doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times a game?
Yeah, we're always going to be a run-first team here at Liberty University. We believe that running the football, it sets the tone for the entire season, but it also gives the entire team a sense of confidence in knowing that we don't have to throw the football beyond people in order to gain yards. We're going to come right at you downhill and on the perimeter and force you to make plays. And so running the football is something that we're always going to do no matter what the set is. And obviously, like you said, it helps the quarterback, get a little confidence, a little rhythm, especially when you involve him in the run game as well.
Coach, you've kind of touched on it, but how big was it for you guys to bounce back, to be able to have a big game offensively, just for confidence, just moving forward to get what you want set in place?
I think it's huge. As an offensive staff, we knew what we were going against week one of the best defenses in the country. And so for us to see that defense and then see, a relatively young defense the following week, we knew that we were going to have some success. The unknowns were how much, because we really didn't know what their defensive linemen were going to be. So the onus was put on our offensive group, hey, we're going to tell you what we think they're going to line up in, but on game day it may not be that way. And so with that being said, you got to learn how to adjust relatively quick. And our guys did, and obviously it showed itself there. But just the maturity from week one to week two was evident, on the tape.
Stephon, after Saturday's game, said that the biggest jump he made from week 1 to 2 was trusting his eyes and improving on his accuracy. When you went back and watched film, how much did you see the growth in those two areas, especially with the touch on deep balls to Dante, putting one over the middle to Damian that should have gone for a touchdown, and also being able to complete those quick outs, intermediate passes to keep the chains moving?
Yeah, that was, he hit the nail, on the head with those statements about trusting his eyes and his feet and being accurate. We talk about the ball goes where your eyes go, and the rhythm that's involved in each throw is important. And week one, he didn't do it as often as he needed to. So the following week, we came to work and we just say, hey, listen, if you trust your feet, trust your eyes, and you're very decisive, you're going to be successful. And he did a great job last week doing those things throughout the entire week, which allowed him to be successful on Saturday.